Hammond is a city in Lake County, Indiana, United States. It is part of the Chicago metropolitan area and the only city in Indiana to border Chicago. First settled in the mid-19th century, it is one of the oldest cities of northern Lake County. Hammond has a 2024 population of 75,317. Hammond is currently declining at a rate of -0.83% annually, and its population has decreased by -3.14% since the most recent census, which recorded a population of 77,759. In 2020, the average household income in Hammond is $48,107, with a poverty rate of 19.91%. From north to south, Hammond runs from Lake Michigan down to the Little Calumet River. From east to west along its southern border, it runs from the Illinois state line to Cline Avenue. The city is traversed by numerous railroads and expressways, including the South Shore Line, Borman Expressway, and Indiana Toll Road. Notable local landmarks include the parkland around Wolf Lake and the Horseshoe Hammond riverboat casino. Part of the Rust Belt, Hammond has been industrial almost from its inception, but is also home to a Purdue University campus and numerous historic districts that showcase the residential and commercial architecture of the early 20th century. The first permanent residents arrived around 1847 to settle on land between the Grand and Little Calumet Rivers on the south end of Lake Michigan. Those first residents were German farmers newly arrived from Europe looking for land and opportunity. Before that time, the area was a crossroad for Indian tribes, explorers, stagecoach lines, and supply lines to the west. Convenient location and abundant fresh water from Lake Michigan led to the beginning of Hammond's industrialization in 1869 with the George H. Hammond Company meat packing plant following merchants and farmers to the area. Hammond was incorporated on April 21, 1884, and was named after the Detroit butcher. Hammond is one of the oldest cities in Lake County, with Crown Point being the oldest, established in 1834. According to the Encyclopedia of Chicago, George Henry Hammond, a pioneer in the use of refrigerated railcars for the transport of fresh meat, first used this method with his small packing company in Detroit, Michigan. In 1868, Hammond received a patent for a refrigerator car design. In the early 1870s, he built a new plant in northern Indiana along the tracks of the Michigan Central Railroad. By 1873, the George H. Hammond Company was selling $1 million worth of meat a year. By 1875, sales were nearly $2 million. The company's large packing house in Hammond rivaled those located at the Union Stockyard in Chicago. By the middle of the 1880s, when it built a new plant in Omaha, Nebraska, Hammond was slaughtering over 100,000 cattle a year and owned a fleet of 800 refrigerator cars. After Hammond died in 1886, the company became less important and no longer challenged the giant Chicago Packers, who acquired Hammond at the turn of the century and merged it into their national packing company. The Hammond, Whiting, and East Chicago Electric Railway Company trolley service ran from 1893 to 1940. On June 22, 1918, the Hammond Circus train wreck occurred about 5.5 miles east of the city. The Hammond Circus train wreck was one of the worst train wrecks in U.S. history. 86 people were reported to have died and another 127 were injured when a locomotive engineer fell asleep and ran his troop train into the rear of a circus train near Hammond, Indiana. The circus train held 400 performers and roustabouts of the Hagenbeck-Walla Circus. The downtown Hammond shopping district along State Street and Homan Avenue included major chains such as Sears and J.C. Penney. The largest stores in downtown were the Goldblatt's and E. Minas department stores. The E.C. Minas store was constructed in 1894 and was in business until August 1984. The building which housed the Goldblatt store had been purchased by the Chicago-based retailer in 1931 and operated until 1982, when it closed due to bankruptcy. In 1993, the building was demolished. Architect Victor Gruen designed the Woodmar Mall in the Woodmar neighborhood. The mall opened in 1954 and was anchored by a Carson and Company store. In February 2006, the decision was made to demolish Woodmar Mall, except for the Carson store. The Hammond Redevelopment Commission announced plans in June 2016 for a $12 million sports complex to be built on the site of the former mall. The Carson store closed in 2018 and was demolished in 2019 as part of its parent company's liquidation. According to the 1960 United States Census, Hammond's population reached a record high of 111,698 residents. Hammond, like other industrial cities in the Rust Belt, went into decline during the 1970s and 1980s, with the city's population plunging to 94,000 in 1980 and 83,000 in 2000. However, Hammond's economy was more diversified than neighboring Gary, East Chicago, and the south side of Chicago, which all relied on heavy industry, primarily steel production. Hammond's economy, on the other hand, depended on light manufacturing, transportation and warehousing, retail, banking, and insurance, healthcare, hospitality, and food service, and construction. Prominent manufacturing companies in Hammond include Unilever's soap factory, Atlas Tube, Cargill Food Processing, Munster Steel, Lear Seating Corporation, Jupiter Aluminum, Tri-State Automation, and Dover Chemical. Warehousing and storage is also prominent, with ExxonMobil and Marathon Petroleum having large oil storage facilities. And FedEx has a distribution center. Large railroad marshaling yards are also present in the city, with the Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad's headquarters in the city. The state line generating plant operated on the Indiana-Illinois state line from 1929 to 2012. And was demolished in 2014. The Empress Casino opened in Hammond in June 1996 and was replaced with the Horseshoe Hammond Casino in 2001. Many redevelopment projects are happening daily. Downtown Hammond, Indiana. Revitalization plan is in progress to save the heart of the city. It's downtown Hammond's turn to get the much-needed renovation attention before it is too late. Mayor McDermott has led a team to put together a downtown Hammond, Indiana revitalization plan to save this historic area, the Downtown Hammond Master Plan. This downtown master plan aims to continue Hammond's revitalization momentum by implementing a live, work, play strategy in the downtown area that will help breathe new life into downtown for many years to come. A prosperous, sustainable community is the end goal. The future is green, less cars, more bikes, more walking. The future is bringing some of Chicago's wealth over into Northwest Indiana. Downtown Hammond, Indiana is poised perfectly to ride the wave of the future all the way back to its former glory.